Hello, it's Paul here again from MotorZen News, just bringing you this week's headlines. Xpeng, Chinese company, no drivers and she's flying. EV close to outselling diesel. Polestar is coming to Dublin. European court case, and Volkswagen partners with a car sharing company. Xpeng is a Chinese brand. It's a brand that is taking on Tesla in that it's in that sector. It's in the sector of performance and top-end product. But they are also experimenting with a flying car. And they've just completed their maiden voyage. The terminology that's been used around the flying car is VTOL, Vertical Takeoff and Landing Aircraft, VTOL. They've been experimenting with this concept for a while. Originally, they were using dual motors or dual rotors. They've now gone to 4 rotors and kind of like a drone type format. Seems to be much more controllable and working a lot better for them. When the car lands, the rotors fold away and the car looks like it's just got a rooftop storage box on it. So yeah, this seems to be something that's starting to, there are a couple of manufacturers at this and a couple of manufacturers looking at it. Staying with Xpeng, they also got a permit in China to do some autonomous testing. And again, the wording that's used around all of these things, which seem unusual or strange to us now, but I think they're going to be standard words and standard terminologies. Mobility solutions. Mobility solutions is wording we're hearing a lot about these days. And these tests that are being done by Xpeng for autonomous work are also to incorporate robo-taxis. So the reasoning behind this, the development of this, is to have taxis that can drive around without needing a driver. That's where they want this to go initially. That's the early. Everyone that talks about autonomous seems to talk about the idea of mobility solutions and robo-taxis. That's the objective, that's the achievement in this earlier stages of autonomous. EV sales in the EU. EV sales in the EU, they're looking at the numbers and they're saying that by the middle or end of next year, EV could outsell diesel. Yeah, you heard it here first. 2015, 50% of the European market was diesel. And that's down to 16.5%. So very, very short space of time, the diesel market has just diminished. Now, some of the reason for this is that manufacturers simply aren't producing diesels. Certainly in some of their popular sectors, the diesel is not available anymore. So naturally enough, the diesel element would be down. EV is now at 12% of the European market. And if you add together EV, HEV, PHEV, so hybrid and plug-in hybrid, at this point, that number is 43% to 33% internal combustion. So if you look at some comments coming out of BMW and Stellantis lately, they're saying they don't think they're going to be able to meet the targets for 2035. Well, based on these numbers and based on the take-up and based on the fact that the consumer does seem to be taking to electric, and certainly from the point of view of talking to anybody I know who've had electric, they love it. They don't have any issues, and they won't be going back. They won't have an option to go back probably anyway. So there's a combination of things. There's a combination of not having an option and a combination that when you get into electric, you actually like it. But yeah, it looks like by next year, EVs are going to exceed diesels. So that's the big turning point. Audi have given out more details about their partnership with Sauber in Formula One. For those that aren't that interested in it, Sauber would have had Alfa Romeo branding on the car for the last couple of seasons. It purely was a sticker. It was nothing else. Alfa Romeo had no input or no technology in the car at all. It was just a branding exercise. But Audi have technical input. Currently, Audi have 120 people working because they're aimed at the new regulations that's going to come out in 2026. So they've got 120 people working on the project at the moment. They're working on the electric motor, they're working on the battery control systems, and they're working on the 1.6 engine. And that 1.6 engine is going to produce 544 brake horsepower, and it's going to use carbon neutral synthetic fuel. That's what the rules for 2026 say, that the petrol that they're using now will be carbon neutral synthetic fuel in 2026, because that was the big thing. Audi said they wouldn't go into F1 unless it was carbon neutral synthetic fuel. So that's what's going to happen for 2026. And they say that a combined electric and mechanical engine, the output on this is going to be around 1,000 brake horsepower. The last time Audi, or it would have been under the naming of Auto Union, which was the before they started to buy up all the companies and become Audi. But the Auto Union brand last appeared in Formula One racing between 1933 and 1939, and it used a supercharged V6 engine. And then it didn't continue after 39 because Germany had a little bit of a friction with the rest of Europe. So we're going to see Audi back there again in F1 for 2026. We normally say you've got to the middle part, please like, comment and subscribe. Well, this is for the people that maybe don't get as far as the middle part. You've got to the quarter part. Please, if you could like, comment and subscribe, we'd appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Polestar, which is constantly have to get this out there now because it's almost been seen as a brand on its own now. But Polestar was the performance brand of Volvo, but it's standalone now, and every time I mention it I go, Polestar's Volvo, because it's so strong that it seems that it's been there forever as its own brand. Polestar is an EV performance brand. It's Volvo's performance brand as such, but they're not making a link to Volvo anymore in any of the advertising or wording. You don't hear Volvo mentioned anymore. They've opened a new retail location in Sandyford, and again, new wording around this. It is a retail location. It's not a garage, it's not a dealership, it's not the traditional format. It's a digital first sales approach. That's the wording they use, a digital first sales approach. The people that will work in this building will be non-commissioned people that tell you and inform you about the product. They're not on a commission, they're not salespeople. You get a 1-hour test drive around the area, and then you can order the vehicle online. So again, with these new brands, they're starting off with a new format, like Tesla, new format, not traditional dealerships, not glass palaces, completely new format. So the legacy dealers, which is the traditional dealers, are now trying to get back to this. And just today, a story I noticed was a Mercedes dealership in Cumbria, South Lakes in Cumbria. Mercedes have pulled the dealership, and they've said to the people in that area that that's it, go online now to order or buy a Mercedes. So this has been on the agenda with Mercedes in the UK for a while, where they described that the dealers have agreed to this type of method of selling. But I think what's interesting about this, I think there could be more opportunities for independent workshops, because it's clear that the manufacturers don't want the huge cumbersome dealership type models anymore. But yet and all, these vehicles are going to need some form of maintenance and some form of servicing, possibly less maintenance and less servicing. But there certainly isn't going to be a network of dealerships in the old conventional way. So I think that good independent workshops need to watch this space as they see where the opportunities may be for them in this area. European Court of Justice. Why would we be talking about that on a programme that's about the motor industry and about cars? Well, I remember a couple of years ago asking about block exemption, and I remember it was something to do with a manufacturer that was kind of not following the law in regard to what block exemption said. And I remember saying to somebody, well, you shouldn't be allowed to do this. And that particular person, a well-informed person, said, well, the only way you can counteract this is that if they're doing something that's not legal, you need to take them to court. So I'm saying, but that's a massive manufacturer. Who's going to take a massive manufacturer to court? Well, that's the only way. They can be flexible with the law, and unless you're going to take them to court, nothing's going to get done about it. Well, in this story here, we have a situation where ADPA, Automotive Data Publishers Association, so the association that come together from all the people that produce data primarily for the aftermarket, they've taken a case. They've taken a case to the European Court of Justice. And they've gone to the European Court of Justice and said, hold on a second here. And it's been against Peugeot PSA, Stellantis now, but it started back in 2019 or 2018. They've taken this case against PSA and effectively gone to the European Court and said, hold on a second, these guys aren't playing by the rules. There's been massive increases in fees to get the data, way above inflation. And there's a regulation, it's regulation 2018-858, section 61 and 63. They said what these guys are doing is contravening those regulations. They've gone to the European Court with this, and the European Court says, we agree with you. So sometimes when you look at the costs of data and you think someone's ripping somebody off here, it hasn't always been the people that are supplying you with the data. In this instance here, the people that are supplying you with the data have come together and said, we need to take these guys on. They've gone to the European Court of Justice, and the European Court of Justice says, yeah, these guys are overcharging. This is not right. This is contravening the regulation. We'll watch this space as to see how that unfolds, but at this point, it's been a victory, and this is how the whole system is meant to work. So we'll see how it goes over the next couple of months, and if there's more news on this, we'll bring it to you. Again, new concepts around cars. Recently, I was talking to a workshop owner, and he did bring it up to me about, he said, well, I'm not overly worried about electric, but what I am worried about is who owns the car going forward. And I thought it was very interesting, the angle he was taking. That today is we're so traditional. We know someone buys the car, they own the car, they decide who services the car, they decide what they want to get done in the car, they decide they don't want to get it serviced at all. But it's their car to do with what they want to. Going forward, it's not going to be quite so clear. And Volkswagen have just bought into a company in Germany called Miles Mobility. Miles Mobility have got 9,000 vehicles out across Germany. They're in Berlin, Bonn, Dusseldorf, Hamburg, Cologne, Munich, to name some of them. And they've got 200,000 users. Now, these are 200,000 people that somewhere along the way have used a car sharing product from this company. They may have used the car for a couple of hours, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months. But they don't own a car. That's the key thing here. They contract the car, or they engage with this company whenever they want a car. In this deal, you can see that Volkswagen are getting on board with this. They're buying into this company. In the deal, they're going to purchase 10,000 Volkswagen, Audi, Skoda, Seat products over the next couple of years. They currently have 2,000 ID3s and ID4s in the network in Germany. But yeah, this is the question going forward. Who owns the car? Because the traditional idea that you buy a car, you have it for 3 or 4 years, you sell it, you buy another one, that's breaking down slightly, and you can see that the manufacturers are starting to want a piece of that action as opposed to traditionally. And again, if you go back to the story on the Polestar, the traditional format where we set up a dealership in a town, we try and sell to as many people in that town as possible. These traditional formats are starting to fragment and fracture, and the things we've known for years may not be the way forward in the next couple of years. That's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and maybe drop in with us next week. And again, we've got a few more comments. We're getting a few more subscribers. Appreciate that. Again, usual thing, like, comment and subscribe if you could. Thanks a lot.